Hey everybody, welcome to Jacob's Quest, and today we just saw episode 11 of The Bad Batch. We have 5 more episodes to go, and spoiler alert, so obviously if you haven't seen this episode yet, go watch it first and then come back. Okay, so this episode, The Bad Batch take pretty much entirely a backseat. They are almost not in this episode at all, which is the first time that this has happened in this show, and with only 5 episodes left, this one definitely made me feel more than ever that we're gonna get a season 2 of this show, because this feels like the beginning of a brand new arc that, you know, it's probably gonna take up the next 3 or 4 episodes. This might be the story arc that we're gonna finish this season off with, but it definitely does not feel like the beginnings of, you know, this epic Kaminoan, you know, clone civil war that, you know, everyone's kind of suspecting is where this is all going. So I think that might be season 2. I think this is where we're going to end things for season 1. So what we're actually looking at in this episode is we're here on Ryloth, and this is all essentially the origin story of Hera Syndulla and her dad, and, you know, all of this stuff setting up for Star Wars Rebels. We even have Chopper here already. She's already rescued Chopper from that Y-Wing that we know he gets rescued from. So this was a fascinating direction for the show to go. And like I said, it feels like the beginning of an arc. It definitely feels like next episode, because they do, you know, Hera and the other lieutenants, I forget their names, they do meet the Bad Batch in this episode, so it definitely seems logical that, like, okay, where things leave off here, they're gonna call for the Bad Batch's help. You know, they're gonna call them back, say, hey, can you guys help us? And, you know, next episode they'll be much more involved. But this episode here is entirely from the point of view of, you know, the people of Ryloth and Cham, Syndulla, and Hera, and yeah, it was just it was kind of jarring, because, you know, you start the episode, and after like 5, 8, 10 minutes, you're like, the Bad Batch still hasn't shown up yet. This is weird, right? I don't know. It was just kind of fascinating. But anyways, what we're left with here is the people of Ryloth and Cham Syndulla, who has always been a very Saw Gerrera type, you know, a very extremist, freedom fighter, rebellious guy, as far as we've known him. First, he was rebelling against the Separatists, and he, you know, the Republic weren't really sending any help, and he had to kind of be convinced to, you know, work with the Republic, as far as I remember. I need to go back and watch those episodes, the Ryloth episodes of Clone Wars. And then, of course, by the time we see him again in Rebels, when Hera has to go visit her family, you know, of course, he's rebelling against the Empire. But here, we're seeing him be in this very submissive role of the Empire. You know, he's very much like, of course, we have Senator Orn Free there, and none of the citizens are listening to him, because no one likes that guy, who, by the way, is probably the scummiest politician, or one of the scummiest politicians in all of Star Wars. Essentially, he is, you know, politicians like him are the reason it was so easy for Palpatine to take over. So everyone hates this guy, Orn Free, but the people listen to Cham Syndulla. So Syndulla goes up on stage and he's trying to calm everyone down. He's like, yes, the Empire's here. Yes, the Empire is building this manufacturing place, right? That is basically still just a military base. But hey, the war's over. Everything's fine. We can stop fighting. And again, this is a strange place to see Cham Syndulla, because he's never been presented this way. You know, it feels like the old Cham Syndulla that we've known in the past, both in Rebels and Clone Wars, would immediately be like, okay, what is this bullshit? Why are they building a military base here? It's clearly what this is. You know, it's clear that they're not like keeping the peace on Ryloth. They're conquering Ryloth, you know? But he's, for now, he's like very much like, no, let's calm down. It's over. We won. The war's over. He seems to be like in a bit of a denial about this. But his other lieutenants, his people, are definitely not. They're taking his daughter, saying like, hey, can you just watch this facility? Can you just see what's happening here? And they're trying to they're taking her on missions to smuggle weapons, which is where the Bad Batch come in, because the Bad Batch are selling them weapons through Sid to these rebels on Ryloth. And yeah, basically all that ends up happening here is that Orn Free Taa throughout the whole episode is talking to Admiral Ramparts of the Empire, and he's basically like, look, Cham Syndulla can't be trusted. Cham Syndulla is actually behind this whole rebel movement. He's trying to build up arms and build up an army to take the Empire down and all this stuff, which of course is interesting because at the time Cham Syndulla is not doing that stuff, but he will later, especially after this episode. So anyways, they basically take Hera on a mission to this moon where they meet the Bad Batch. They buy the weapons, they come back, and Crosshair's there, by the way. Crosshair had put a tracker on their ship, and they basically round them up to get arrested for smuggling in weapons, which the people of Ryloth had surrendered all their weapons to the Empire, which right away, I don't know. I mean, Cham Syndulla's he talks about how uneasy this is and how people just have to adjust, but it's like, come on, Cham, you're a freedom fighter, and everyone just had to surrender their weapons to the Empire. Come on. How many red flags do you need, guy? Obviously, this is, you can't just pretend everything's fine. Anyways. So they arrive back on Ryloth, and they're basically all going to get arrested. And now Cham and his wife basically get together to take down this convoy that's holding their daughter, because they've basically said that she's guilty without a fair trial or anything. And here it seems like they're going to have their big rebellious moment. They almost shoot Orn Free Taa, saying like, you're the traitor. You've always been this selfish, the worst. He's just the worst. I hate Orn Free Taa. God. Anyways, but he doesn't shoot him. He's like, look, his wife kind of calms down, says like, his day will come, but not like this, because we're not murderers, right? He just has him at gunpoint. So they're about to leave, and then Admiral Rampart does this cool thing where he's like, he looks at Orn Free Taa. He's like, thank you for playing your part, Senator. And he takes a step to the side, and Crosshair is there, who's been watching this whole situation, this whole Cham and his wife trying to free their daughter and everything going down. And he shoots Orn Free Taa. Now, I'll say this. My immediate thought was like, oh, they just killed Orn Free Taa. That's crazy. And that's definitely still possibly what happens. If you go watch it again, they kind of leave it, he kind of gets shot right in between where the Lekus start and where his temple starts. So it's in this vaguish area where they could probably say oh, we managed to heal him, he's not dead or something. We see him getting carted off in one of those levitating platforms. So it's possible that Senator Orn Free Taa is not actually dead. And the reason I bother to bring all this up, and the reason I'm kind of doubting he might be, is because there is a canon book called Lords of the Sith where Orn Free Taa does show up. That book takes place 5 years into the Empire, and Vader and Palpatine show up, and that whole thing plays out. So if Orn Free Taa is dead, then that book it wouldn't be the first time that Bad Batch has kind of altered canon. But if he's dead, then that book is starts getting iffy now, as far as a lot of the Orn Free Taa parts, which it feels like more than ever we've been talking about canon, especially with Star Wars Visions coming out, and everyone's like, is this canon, and then we had the whole Kanan thing. It's so, if he is dead and Lords of the Sith the book are kind of questionable canon now, I'm okay with it. I've accepted that look, it's a mythology. Some things are just going to be said to have happened differently at different times, but it's fine. Anyways, so basically he gets shot, and all these other clones show up, and they take off Hera's parents, and Hera gets speeded away by Cham's little lieutenants, and so she's free, and her parents are captured. And this definitely kind of sets up for the next episode. She's probably gonna try to contact Omega, who she formed a little bit of a friendship with, and say, hey, can you get your guys, your Bad Batch guys, to come help me free my parents? And that's definitely the arc I see this playing out over the next 2-3 episodes, right? So a couple interesting things here. There is a clone commander by the name of it's Hauser, Clone Commander Hauser, I think. He seems to have a pretty personal friendship with Cham. They kind of fought together at certain points, I'm sure, against the Separatists, right? I don't remember if we've ever seen this clone before. The interesting thing about him is that when we've seen clones under the influence of Order 66 in the past, even when they're not with a Jedi, they seem to be very direct, very robotic almost. And they follow the rules and their orders, to the letter, right? But Hauser here, he's so much more relaxed than we've seen clones up to this point, because they capture Hera when she's spying on this facility in this restricted area she's not supposed to be in, and he's like, hey, look, I can just, I don't have to report this, she's got to stop this, right? But I'm not going to report it, it's cool, we're bros, it's fine, right? Which, that's very odd, because I'm assuming that all of their chips have been activated at this point, so why is Hauser being so cool about this? And again, yeah, they're not Jedi, but we saw Wrecker was about to kill Omega because Omega was a traitor to the Empire, right? When his chip got activated. So very interesting. I don't know if there's something going on with this Hauser clone, or I don't know. It was very, very weird, because he seemed to be willing to bend the rules, and he acted more like a clone, pre Order 66 than what we've seen the clones act like in this show. So something might be going on there with Hauser there. And yeah, just very interesting stuff. Now, here's my other thing, is that in Rebels, Hera and her dad have this very conflicted relationship. Like, he is still this freedom fighter on Ryloth trying to free his people, and she leaves and she flies off, which, by the way, is like a whole thing for her in this episode, how she wants to leave Ryloth and become a pilot and fly away. And she kind of has that moment with Omega talking about what it's like to fly and all that. So I don't know how they're gonna get to this point, because they don't have a strained relationship right now. Right now he was trying to be submissive to the Empire, and she was, she wasn't like rebellious against the Empire, but she was just kind of doing what she was told by the adults, right? The adults were just telling her what to do. She's like, okay, I'm, what is she, like 12 or something? So I don't know. Very interesting stuff. I guess we'll see how it all plays out, how she ends up. She will leave, Ryloth eventually, and her dad will stay there to fight. The other thing is, I do not remember her mom being a character that we see in Rebels. I don't remember that being a thing. So I don't know if her mom is going to survive this arc of the Bad Batch. Ooh, yeah. And here's my other thing, is like, I need to go back and rewatch those episodes of Rebels and Clone Wars, because a lot of these characters I'm sure we have met before, but like, it's been so long since I've seen those episodes that I'm like, I guess that's a person. So I don't know. Very, very interesting. We'll see how this plays out. And yeah, the fact that this might be the ending arc of the next 3-4 episodes, maybe even all 5 episodes, I'm definitely I'm sure there is going to be a season 2. It definitely feels that way. I'll look it up. I don't know if a season 2 was ever announced, but I can't see that not being the case at this point. Because this doesn't feel like the beginning of, the end of the show or anything. So yeah, very interesting. So let me know how you guys feel about this episode, with the Bad Batch basically just entirely missing from this episode almost. And how you feel about the origins of Hera Syndulla and how this all might end up playing out. Is her mom doomed? Did they say that she died at some point in Rebels? I don't remember. Very interesting. All right, let me know how you guys feel, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.